We're live. Hello, and welcome to Human Innovation Questions Answered. And the short form of that is HIQA. And today's topic is how can human innovation change business results? So that's the whole Q&A, and I have a couple of things already prepared in case nobody's joining, which normally doesn't happen. So let's wait a little bit for some people coming in. I'm just checking if it works on all different platforms, which looks like it works at least on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn seems to work as well. So let's switch my phone to flight mode. Good. Thursday, 8 p.m. A little later than usually because I want to cater for the US time zones. I have quite some followers and people specifically listen to the podcast from the US, and they haven't been able to attend my live shows in the past because it was always 11 a.m. in the morning in the Central European time, and now I'm going to 8 p.m. in European time, so I cater for all US time zones. So if you are from the US, let me know in the chat and say hi. Of course, if you have questions to the topic, if you have questions in general to me, please put them into the chat wherever you see this. We are live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, in a couple of groups as well. And it's all about human innovation, and topic of today is how can human innovation change business results? And these are the questions I've already prepared. So please let me know in the chat if you have any questions. So I already see there are quite some people into the chat. But let's get going with one of the questions I have prepared, or at least got already asked before. The good thing is when you have done a couple of weeks break like I did because of moving from Spain to the Netherlands and traveling quite a bit. I was last week in the US, for example. I have tons of questions which I can throw in case nobody of you is asking questions. So please let me know if you have questions to the topic of human innovation and specifically today on results. First question I got is, because of COVID, it's all about cost saving right now in our organization. How can I still innovate? And I think that's a common theme in a lot of organizations. When you work in innovation, you have already a constrained budget. You should have a constrained budget. And then due to COVID, innovation is more important in my eyes than ever before, because constraints help you to try things in a different way, and we have seen that in a lot of organizations. So if it's all about cost saving, it's constraining you even more. For me, that's not a limiter when it comes to innovation. So you should be able to innovate anyhow, because when you innovate, specifically when you work with business innovation topics, you can do innovations that generate income, which means you're fueling your own cost, or at least you're enabling yourself to spend money. If you're able to do that, then you are able to innovate continuously. And I think that's what we all need to talk about when it comes to innovation in general. How do you do innovations that help your company and the purpose of your company to move on? And talking about the other points, I think it's really about to create an entrepreneurial mindset in the organization, so that it's understood from the organization that you can continuously validate concepts and ideas on how you innovate in that organization. And it's really about, that's the human innovation part. It's the culture. The culture of the organization is either allowing and fostering this, or it's not. It's more hindering of you. So if you're a leader in an organization and are faced with cost savings all the time, which I can tell you, I've been working in a lot of organizations, supporting a lot of organizations, always the case. Sometimes you have CEOs or CFOs mainly that are a little bit more restricting, that really want to know everything. And sometimes you have CFOs that trust you and you can move. But in the end, it's all about culture. It's really about empowering everyone to innovate in the organization and let them be part of this. So as you as a leader can do that, and you can help them to innovate on a daily basis, and specifically if you work with the entrepreneurial mindset, understanding what opportunities you have to grow the business. If you work in retail, what can you do differently inside of the stores or in the online business? How can you do that and empower people to test and try all the time? So the mindset and the culture matters in this, and I think it's not about cost savings only. Cost savings is a good possibility to have restrictions so that you're more creative to find other solutions. Okay, there's the first question coming in. Thank you for that. What is this? Okay, everyone talks about innovation in our company, but all we do are small improvements rather than real innovation. How to change that? Okay, good question. Yeah, I know. Innovation is often kind of a buzzword like sustainability and other topics as well, which are kind of sometimes they're more hip than in other times, and it's not always easy to do like true innovation. Then let's get a little bit of true innovation without me knowing what you mean with true innovation. I guess it's more about incremental versus like really moonshot innovation and bigger innovation topics rather than small steps. So maybe that's as well a starting point in your organization. When everyone is talking about innovation, figure out what innovation means. So have a clear definition of what does innovation mean for your organization. And I did this, I don't know, a couple of years back within a large organization where we started to redefine what innovation is and what innovation purpose the organization department or the innovation move should have in that organization. And it's very important that you have a clear perspective, specifically with the leadership, because the leadership is kind of supporting or not supporting. And if everyone talks about innovation, that's very, very good. Go and define it that you have a common view for the total company, if possible, and then talk to the leadership and look into how you can support them with driving innovation. If you're a leader, or I mean, everyone is a leader, but if you're a manager and have resources, how can you do that and how do you bring that forward? And then it's not just the definition of the innovation, it's also the purpose of innovation in your organization. So why do you should you innovate? Figure that out, and that's very important because then you can basically drive innovation. And I'm a big fan, and some of you might not like that, just do it and ask for forgiveness later. Sometimes hurt. If you're long-term in the organization, you will not get fired, I can tell you. If you're newer, you might be a little bit more cautious on that. But it's really about ask for forgiveness afterwards. Do the small things, do little tests and try to find good solutions with that. And then you can use them to foster the innovation mindset and talk about, hey, have you seen this? We did this. Can I get a little bit more budget to do the next step? And so on and so on. It's really a long-term game, even that everyone would love to have the direct results quickly. But doing incremental steps from a test and validation perspective will help you to convince the leadership. I think hope that answers that question a little bit. What else do we have? Okay. I'm a new leader in an organization and responsible for plus 100 people. How do I motivate people that are long-term in the company to innovate themselves? Good question as well. So how do you motivate people that are long-term in a company? Often the challenge with the long-term in the company is not that the people don't want to innovate. It's often that they have seen a lot of tries and a lot of errors in the past, or they haven't been allowed to do certain things. And that's not just about innovation. I think it's a lot as well about normal business topics or projects they wanted to do. So I guess you're a leader in this perspective. So it's really about, number one is how do you lead people? If you want to motivate them, it's all about how do you work with them on a daily basis? How do you enable them to do things? If you're a micromanager, it's not going to help you. So it's really important how do you empower the organization and specifically the people that are reporting to you to be innovative. And that means you delegate responsibilities. You delegate the responsibilities of basically their job description. Often we have a job description and then the manager is not allowing the people to take decisions as part of their job description because we're a big organization, we have processes we need to follow and so on and so on. So it's really about step back as a leader and have a look and What are you delegating? Are you delegating tasks to your employees, or are you delegating their whole role description? And then when you have delegated the role description or want to delegate that role description, look at how do you give them as well the resources, not just giving them responsibility. How do you give them the resources? And that's kind of a thing you need to work out with the direct reports, is find out what resources they need, so when they want to innovate, that they can innovate, and that they basically can decide themselves where to allocate specific resources. And that can be money, people, informations, whatever, on resources that is needed. I think these are key points. And then, of course, I mean, just provide support. Leadership is all about supporting your people to grow. It's all about helping the organization to move and empower the organization. It's not about you taking control of the organization. And I know it's very, very difficult specifically in the large organization, because it's organizational silos. Let's say it's a public company. They have big responsibilities. So it links always to the company culture. If the company culture is not there yet, which I think every company should be to be future fit, you can do that on small scale. You work with your team, you empower your team members, and then you let them innovate on a daily basis, and really stepping back as your responsibility. I've had a very, very good mentor and a manager in the past who said, when I was promoted in another leadership role, he was saying, now you need to forget what you have done, because you have been in a specific area where you know everything yourself. Now you lead this area, and you need to forget that, because your employees, your team members are there to do the task. And if you always step in and tell them what and how to do it, they will never start moving in the right direction, and they always kind of step back and wait for your decision. So it's very, very much about give them the power to decide as well, and let them do mistakes. I think that's key part of that as well. Good. What else do we have? Seems like I can't see anything from LinkedIn. So in case you post something on LinkedIn, sorry, I will answer that in the chat afterwards. I'm trying a new tool here. Okay, what else do we have? How could I measure our innovation efforts differently? I'm working in finance administration. Oh, that sounds fun. And I'm responsible for producing the weekly reports. How can we measure innovation? Oh yeah, good one. I've never had a finance person asking about how can we measure innovation. I mean, coming from finance, you're mainly cost driven. You focus on cost measurements from A to Z. I think that's one part of the equation. The bigger part for me is innovation is all about people. People make innovation happen or not happen. So you need to find out what are the different measurements you can get from the organization which are about people. And it's just basics. If you have input metrics and output metric, input is kind of, these are the hours you put in, and output is that is what you're producing. If we just take basics, understand what different mechanics and people numbers you have in your organization that help you to measure. In the best case, daily, because if you have a daily perspective on certain things, then it will help you to measure it, and then as well get a trend on where you're going. Similar, most probably, like you do with your cost reporting. Another important part, I'm always taking a triangle perspective, where I say, what is your leading KPI? What is your leading KPI when it comes to innovation? Maybe one KPI for innovation doesn't make sense at all. Most of the time, one KPI for a total organization doesn't make sense, because you need to bring context into that KPI. But breaking then this KPI down into specific projects and or results that people are going forward. Let's say you have an innovative project that is about creating new revenue streams. So then, of course, that's again a cost-driven aspect that comes out. But maybe these revenue streams, due to the validation process and innovation process you do, are not coming within the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months, depending on what the project is about. So yes, that's maybe a leading KPI from a future success perspective, but it's not about a leading KPI that gets you into understanding what you have validated. So it's really about, going really basics, like what assumptions do you have and how do you validate them and how you do disqualify what's not working. and getting the customer feedback or client feedback as fast as possible. So it's really about sitting down with your innovation colleagues on a project base. I would start on a project basis, like what projects do you have, what initiatives do you have, and what are the key KPIs. If they don't have KPIs, then it's difficult, but normally they should have, and then really bring that KPIs into your metrics and try to find out. Really use innovation thinking with that people, key part of that, and then look into what can you validate as building the reporting that works and what that doesn't work. So it's not about having it perfect. With, let's say, dollar signs and with money, it's slightly different because you always need to be perfect when it comes to these things, or at least that's what the CFOs want you to be. Another part I have learned, which is quite helpful, learn how you translate intangible things from an innovation perspective. Let's say validated ideas. Yeah, nobody who is not working in innovation will understand that. How do you translate this into, one thing is numbers, and second thing is how do you translate that into the lingo of the organization? So an example, when I was working in retail in IKEA, long time ago, 2008 or something, we translated energy savings into sofas sold. That, I mean, it has nothing to do with innovation, but it was kind of translating something that's intangible for people that are working in retail to sofas sold. Everyone knows what in if we take IKEA as the example, everyone knows what's the most expensive sofa which is to be sold in that store. If you translate that, hey, we need to have 20 of these sofas every day, they will understand that better than if you say, hey, we need to save 200,000 kilowatt hours energy or whatever. So it's really about how can you translate that is relevant for the people you work with. And then, of course, for if we talk CFO and you work in the finance, then it's all about euros or dollars or currencies and efficiency on that one. And if you then talk to other people in the organizations about other topics as well, like sofa sold, whatever the business is about. So really try to find out what is that and how it can help you. Good. Looks like there are quite some people today. Next question, a long one. Okay. I don't have an innovation question, but hope you can help me. Okay, I will try. I'm working in a large organization and would like to hire a new person, but don't have the headcount. How can I get a new headcount approved? Okay, let's innovate. I mean, I've had that in the past and recently as well. So that it's quite a normal thing. Most of the time you don't have the right headcount or the headcount you would like to have. I think it's really, or at least in my experience, what I try to understand is the company direction. Where is the company going? What is the context of not having that headcount or not getting it approved in the first hand? Is there a reason for that? And what is the reason for that? Haven't you been able to explain it properly so that they understand the benefit of it? Or is it just that there's no headcount available and the company is very, very much restricted? So it's really understanding the direction first, and then it's kind of how is the headcount split in the organization. Let's say if you're in a production company, you most probably have most of the resources and headcounts in the production area, not in other areas, or in the purchasing areas for the products or for the resources. So it's really about like how is it split and where are you in this world? Where is your department and your team in this world, and looking then into understanding of how you can contribute to the wider perspective. That means going into stakeholder mapping. You need to understand what are the key stakeholders that are involved and can contribute to a new headcount approval. At least that's how I would do it. So it's understanding that, and when you understand the different stakeholders who are involved in the approval process, then you can see how far are they from you. How far are they from understanding why you need a new headcount, why you need a specific person to be brought into your team. And then it's really when you understand their perspective, look into, I always do a kind of stakeholder mapping, which is you have the key goal in the middle, and then you put the stakeholders around it in a certain distance in the distance of how close are they to you, to your team, depending of what you're mapping. But it's really about how do you get them closer to where you are. And if you're basically get them closer, they will understand you better. Or you understand, hey, this person is connected to that person, and I have a very good connection to that person. So this person can then talk to the other person and then help you to succeed in that. What else? I think that's key part on that. If you then understand that, and key part, I mean, I have said it already, but it's explain and try to understand how you can sell it to the organization, what the benefit and what the impact of this new headcount can be. And then communicate to the decision makers and as well to other colleagues that they understand the need of it. That's at least how I would approach that. Okay, what else do we have? I will not manage all of them today because I don't want to go too long. Okay. I will try to answer all of them in the chat, so don't worry if I'm not picking them up today in the live show. There are quite some interesting ones, but they don't fit to today's theme. But let's take this one, maybe as the last one. I'm a manager with 5 direct reports, 5,000 employees company. Okay, that's not a super small one. My manager has no idea how to lead people. He's micromanaging me and the other managers. I'm considering leaving the company, but want to give it another try. Any idea what and how I could do it? Okay. Yeah, again, not 100% innovation, but definitely the human part. Let's try to find out. So you have a micromanaging manager, like I mentioned already before. Key part is talk to the manager. I am convinced, or I've seen it myself, that managers are often not aware that they're micromanaging. Every leader, every manager has a specific style on how they have been successful in the past. And we are humans. We are following success patterns. If it has been successful in the past, you're repeating that pattern. So if you have been micromanaging another person, then you're repeating that. Another thing is maybe this person don't know you, this person don't know your capabilities and what you can do, and or doesn't trust you. So it's really about starting to find that out. Talking is the best way, and not being afraid. It's all about being open, being transparent, and say, hey, this is how I feel. I don't know what's going on. Can you explain this? I can't live with this. So being really honest and vulnerable to that person, but as well trying to understand that person's perspective. Just an example, I have worked in 6 different countries with, dozens of different cultures from specific countries. Every culture has certain different perspectives on leadership and how they manage people. So be aware that maybe there's a different culture. Even if you're in the same country, people coming from different companies have different cultural aspects and different cultural norms where they come from. So being then a manager reporting to other managers, it's really important that you try to understand that person, or your manager in this case, to find out and help to figure out that person as well. Sometimes it's kind of you coach that person depending on the relationship, where that person comes from, what is behind that person is kind of micromanaging you, and maybe last part on this is worst case you have to leave. Worst case, if it doesn't work, I would give it at least half a year if you ask me, because half a year is, it feels like a long time, but in the end, in a corporate world and the business world, half a year is nothing. If you work with that, and maybe depending on how HR is working in your organization, you can ask HR, though that I've quite often seen that it's not always helpful. So for me, it's always about do it yourself, talk to that person, try to find out, and worst case, really jump and leave the company if it doesn't work. I think we are in a time where people moving companies quite often, And I mean, I've said it a couple of times in the past, people are leaving managers, not companies. And I can say it for myself as well. So in the end, if it doesn't work, try to find something else in that company. If you love the company, try to find a leader where you know it's working. And if it doesn't work, leave. That's I think the best case I can give you. Okay, cool. So we have managed the 25-minute mark, and I think I have covered quite some questions. So if you have questions, if you still have questions, please shoot them in the chat. I know that not all comments coming to my my view here right now. I think there are a couple of technical issues in the background. But I think we have covered quite some questions. Thank you very much for sending them my way. I'm doing this now way more often. I will do this once a week. I'm trying to keep it at 8 p.m. Central European time, catering for the US time zones. So it's a fun exercise for me. If you have questions, please shoot them always my way. The recording of this will be as well available in all different platforms, and it will go into the podcast as well. So if you want to listen to the audio version of this, you're welcome to do that. Go to my website, jensheitland.com, and see all the old episodes where I did questions, and it's always about human innovation. Thank you very much for joining today. It was a pleasure, and see you next week.